There's a fellow who helps us understand exactly what goes on behind the scenes down the street from us here at the Capitol. His name is Kyle Malin. He is the editor of MIRSnews.com. That's MIRSnews.com, the Capitol Behind the Scenes newsletter that you can subscribe to anytime you like. And he's on the other end of our line this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
So yesterday, the Senate narrowly passes the governor's business tax reform plan. Now, on one hand, Senator Richardville told me he always knew he had the votes. On the other hand, Senator Whitmer said, well, I'm not sure he's going to get the votes. What happened yesterday? Who was telling the truth, and how did it all shake out?
Well, I think they were both telling the truth to an extent. I mean, Randy Richardville, the Senate Majority Leader, had been picking away at his members for weeks now to try and get the votes needed to get Snyder's tax plan passed through his chamber. And Gretchen Whitmer was just trying to hold firm there with her caucus. I know there were some overtures made, or at least a couple members say, hey, is there any circumstance under which you would vote yes? But they all held firm, and they all voted no. And, you know, that for the Senate Republicans, the problem was all real political and somewhat posturing. You know, if you come out early and say that you oppose certain parts of the plan, you could always go back and tell your constituents, hey, you know, I did oppose it before I voted for it. You know, because from a business standpoint, you know, most of those members on the Republican side, if not all of them, got business support to get where they got. And so, you know, at their core, they support giving businesses a $1.67 billion tax break, which is what they did yesterday. It's all those new exemptions that will get eliminated that, you know, obviously was the problem.
Mm-hmm. So it came down to a tie-breaking vote. Is that what happened?
Yeah, and you know what? Randy Richardville said that he really didn't need that. He had the 20th vote if he needed it. You know, there's 38 members, 20 for a majority, but if it's 19-19, then the lieutenant governor can cast the tie-breaking vote. And apparently the lieutenant governor wanted to be put in that position because he wanted to make a statement about the tax, and he was very proud that his office had helped craft that proposal and wanted to make a statement before casting the final yes vote to put it over the top. And so Gretchen Whitmer agreed that all of her members would vote. Now, this gets a little in the weeds, but I still think it's interesting, Michael Patrick. You know, all of the Democrats didn't have to vote on the bill. One of them could have just, as they say, taken a walk and not voted at all. Mm-hmm. And what would have happened then, it would have been 19-18. Well, now 19 is not a majority, and then it doesn't pass. Mm-hmm. And she would have made another Republican vote. And, you know, Randy Richardville said he had that. So there had to be a deal cut with the Democrats so that they would all vote no, which is kind of funny, you know. We're gonna give you something so you will vote no on the proposal, which is kind of counterintuitive.
That is kind of interesting to see in the kitchen about how the cakes are baked like that. And so in return, Senator Whitmer got some promises from the governor's office just so the lieutenant governor could sit in there and break the tie?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And so they got two assurances. One was that if we have money after Monday's consensus revenue estimating conference where the eggheads go back and they determine how much money they think we're going to have next fiscal year, that's projected they're going to come back and say, hey, we've got about $500 million we can play with. And she got assurances from the governor's office that a portion of that would go to offset the cut to K-12 education. And then also she was told that there would be a vote on a proposal that would allow the city of Detroit to continue issuing an income tax and a utility tax. You know, they dropped population as part of the last census, and because of that, there was a problem with the law. It says in the law that if you have a population over such, then you can issue these taxes. Well, they dropped under that threshold, so now they got to go back and rewrite the law and lower it. And the governor said, yeah, I would agree to consider that. And Randy Richardville said, yes, we'll vote on that if you guys go ahead and vote no.
The Romney speech yesterday, there were some interesting characters there. Apparently, Rob Steele, the guy who ran against John Dingell, the Republican from Ann Arbor, who ran against the Democrat Dingell, showed up and he wore his physician's coat and his stethoscope to the Romney speech about health care. That's a bit of show business, isn't it?
Well, a little bit, you know, and he's got his name out there as a potential candidate for U.S. Senate for 2012. So, you know, he's kind of playing the part a little bit. You know, when he ran against John Dingell, it was Dr. Rob Steele, and I imagine that if he goes and runs for U.S. Senate, it will again be Dr. Rob Steele. And, You know, this audience that Romney talked to yesterday, from what I was told, was predominantly physicians from the University of Michigan healthcare system. There were some Republican activists and whatnot, but 30% of the room was media, and there was only 100 people in the room. It was invitation only, so let's say 30% were national media, and then maybe 15% was Republican folks, and then the rest were physicians. And, you know, Rob Steele's one of those, and, you know, he likes to be seen and needs to be part of the discussion, needs to be around. So that was that, but, yeah, it was still kind of funny and didn't go unnoticed that he was in full attire.
Does Ron Paul, he's going to announce today, I guess, that he's going to perhaps run for president, and he's going to do it in New Hampshire. Does he have a ghost of a chance?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah. You know, it's interesting how much support he does have among a conservative sect in the Republican Party. You know, he does have some support, and a lot more than he did before. I think he's being taken a lot more seriously, and it's because of his fiscal message and some of his more libertarian views that I think that he does have some attraction. Now, the only way I think he wins a primary is if the field is large and folks are kind of broken up. But, you know, from listening to Ron Paul in the past, he's very electric, he's very passionate, and the folks who support him are also very passionate for him. And some of these folks who support him aren't really the traditional rank-and-file Republicans, you know what I mean? I mean, he attracts folks into the fold who are, you know, maybe not, or maybe apolitical, you know, because he's got broader views on things like national policy. It's not necessarily all war hawk stuff.
Wow.
So, you know, he brings a very different aspect. You know, in some straw polls, Ron Paul does better than Mitt Romney among some fiscal conservatives.
I'm surprised to hear that, but that's what Kyle Malin does. He tells us what's happening behind the scenes at mirsnews.com, MIRSnews.com. It's Michael Patrick Shields.